Thank you very much, everyone, for coming here today to listen to me speak. Today, I want to talk about the future of Fantom. I know a lot of people have been questioning it, particularly as a result of what has happened recently with multi-chain and other things. So today, I want to give an outline as to what I see the future going to be for the rest of the year and also into next year as well. So just a quick primer. What is Fantom? Well, Fantom is essentially, as a technology, an open source, permissionless technology where you can process transactions in what we call an asynchronous manner. So what that means is that instead of processing one block at a time or one transaction at a time, you're processing multiple transactions at the same time, right? Or multiple blocks at the same time. And there's a lot of work that went into being able to do that while maintaining what we call consensus. But that's essentially what we've done at Fantom, and we've been operating the mainnet for a bit over 2 years now, almost 3 years now. The time to finality, which is basically how long it takes to confirm a transaction on the network, is less than a second. On average, it's about 0.9 seconds, although it does vary a bit. The average transaction cost is less than a cent for your average transaction. It's Solidity compatible and Wi-Fi compatible, meaning that the way that you would process and deploy smart contracts on Fantom is pretty much the same as on Ethereum. So if you can take the skill sets for developing applications on Ethereum and applying it to Fantom. You can also prune the data set, so you can run validators or nodes with a lot less data than you need for a full node. And it doesn't require that much powerful hardware in order to run a node. You can take a medium instance, for example, in AWS, and be able to run a node quite successfully. So why solve technology problems? A lot of people out there have kind of criticized, questioned Fantom, saying, "Oh, all you guys do is just talk about technology, right? All you really care about is just your new storage system and this, that, and the other." But users don't really care about that. They want to hear something more than just about technology for Fantom. I think to some extent that is true, but technology is really, really important as well. I think to grow a successful platform project, you kind of need two aspects, right? You need the users and the ecosystem, and you also need the technology. Because without having both, you're not going to have a sustainable ecosystem. So specifically in relation to solving the technology problems, there is a lot of technology development that has occurred recently with Fantom and with other projects that are out there. But still to this day, if you were to run even just one single popular application on the Fantom network or on any other so-called layer 1 or layer 2 network out there, say it has about 50,000 daily users that submit 10, 20, 30 transactions on a daily basis, they're playing a particular game, that already would slow down the network. Because fundamentally, blockchain technology to this very day is not very scalable. And that's because you have to confirm a lot of transactions across a lot of different nodes in order for it to work, rather than just a single computer, right? Otherwise, it's completely centralized. So for blockchain to have high levels of adoption similar to internet, you have to kind of solve these problems. And Fantom had these kind of bottlenecks in 2021 and elsewhere. And with our new technology, I think we'll solve these bottlenecks a lot. So what is this new technology I've been talking about? Well, it comes down to a few projects called Tosca and Carmen. So Tosca is basically this new virtual machine that will replace the Ethereum virtual machine, but importantly, is still Solidity and Wi-Fi compatible, meaning that for a developer, if you were to build an application on Ethereum and you're using this new technology, the Fantom virtual machine, you'll still be able to build that application using Ethereum-based technologies and deploy that onto Fantom. You'll just have to be running different commands, right? We also have another project called Project Carmen, which is basically a new storage system. So one of the big bottlenecks with the Ethereum network and other layer 1s and layer 2s that use Ethereum's technology is that you rely on something called the Merkle-Patricia trie. And basically, it's a way of storing history to do with execution of transactions. It's a really great way of being able to replay transactions and replay the whole history of the chain and to verify that the data is true. However, it does come with a few big disadvantages. One of the big disadvantages is the fact that you have to store a lot more data than you really need to in order to be able to verify transactions. So we've found a way of replacing this MPT technology in order to basically reduce the amount of computation required to confirm transactions, and in order to reduce the amount of storage as well, while still being able to maintain, being able to verify independently the history of nodes. Also, we've been working on a whole bunch of other software to do with the P2P networking problems or to do with consensus. So solving those sorts of problems and optimizing it, which I won't get into too much detail about for my presentation. So what have we been doing with this new technology? Well, the new virtual machine storage system, it's fully built. And we're running a whole bunch of experiments right now as I speak. And these are basically the parameters of the experimentation. I'm not going to go through each of the hardware specifications and what it means and why we're using it, that sort of thing. But these are basically the specifications that will be in the slides that will be publicly available after my presentation. So some of the key things about the network parameters, right, is that we've been basically testing this new technology, submitting a lot of transactions to the network, right? And these are not transactions that are really simple transactions, right? Account-to-account transfers where you get a lot of transactions on the network, but they're not really representative of what people do on the network. Because I think, for Fantom and other layer 1s and layer 2s out there, most people use the network to do a lot of clever smart contract interactions, engaging with lending protocols, engaging with gaming protocols, creating NFTs, doing all sorts of DeFi activities. And so we'll try to mimic that in our own testing parameters. So most of the transactions, over 90% of the transactions, are smart contract-based transactions, whereas only 10% of them are the simple to account transfers. And that basically aligns with how the Fantom system operates at the moment, is that about 90% or so of the mainnet consists of these smart contract transactions. Only about 10% consists of the account-to-account transfers or transferring one Fantom to another Fantom wallet, right? And so we've also done this testing with evenly staked proof-of-stake nodes. So Fantom runs on a proof-of-stake system, and we've assumed the worst-case scenario here, where it's the slowest possible time it takes to confirm transactions, because we've spread the stakes evenly. Because if the stakes are more unevenly spread, then it's a lot faster to confirm transactions, because until you reach the threshold of 2/3 to confirm a transaction, it's a lot faster if it's uneven rather than even. And so we've been managed to, these are the mainnet parameters as well that are displayed on the screen. So these are some of the preliminary results. We've been able to execute over 2,000 transactions per second. And actually the number is a lot higher than this based on some further testing we've done, closer to 3,500. But these are the conservative numbers that we are very, very confident we can also display on the mainnet, right? We can also generate, the network can consume over 180 million gas per second, right? And the time to finality, crucially, we haven't traded off confirmation times for higher transaction throughput, right? The confirmation time is still sub-second, right? It's still under a second, as you can see on your screen there, right? And also the disk usage is a fraction of the current mainnet, which I'll display on the next screen now. So this is some of the preliminary results of our testing right now compared to the mainnet data. So I want to take you through some of the information that's displayed on the screen there, right? So first of all, transaction throughput, or what we call transactions per second, right? It's basically how much computation can the network do in a given second on the network, right? And so the higher the number, the better it is, because the more activity that applications can generate on the network. And so you see on the mainnet, it varies between about 30 to 512, right? But on the mainnet, it's consistently above 2,000. And as I mentioned before, even with some of the more experimental numbers that we've generated, it can even reach up to 3,500 or even 4,000 in some cases, right? And so the difference there is 1 to 2 orders of magnitude, or about 7 to 8 times more than the current mainnet, right? Confirmation times as well. We've maintained the time to finality to be under 1 second. If the time to finality, in my opinion, is under 1 second, that's good enough in terms of user experience on the individual level, how long it takes for them to confirm a transaction. So we didn't want to trade that off for performance benefits in other areas. So we've kept that low. Storage, crucially, is a fraction of what it was before. So if you want to maintain a full node on Fantom, it takes about 11 terabytes of data. If you use the new technology that we've got coming out very, very shortly, your storage numbers are reduced by at least 90%. And that number is actually quite conservative. We're confident that it's actually closer to around 95%. So, under 1 terabyte compared to 11 terabytes at the moment. And when you prune a node to make it a lot smaller than it currently is on the mainnet, it would be even smaller on the private testnet. Perhaps it could even be 100 gigabytes for the entire blockchain storage on your network. And why is that important? Because if you want to run a node, it's a lot faster to sync, right? If you want to run a node, it'll be a lot cheaper to do that as well, right? And so, if you're running a what we call RPC node, if you're running a validator node, if you're running just like a light client node, it will be a lot cheaper and it should sync a lot faster. So that's why storage is really, really important as well. And that storage reduction has managed to occur because we've been able to take advantage of removing the MPT while still maintaining the verification of the history of the network. And also, the number of transactions that we tested this network on was about 512 million, right? So this is like basically equivalent data on the private testnet as to what is displayed on the public mainnet, right? Now, other things I want to talk about are to do with growing the Fantom ecosystem. So I talked a lot about technology, but what other reasons why should people deploy on the Fantom ecosystem going forward, right? So there's a few initiatives that we've got already rolled out, and we want to grow over time. So one of them is called the gas monetization program that I think a lot of people in the Fantom ecosystem are kind of familiar with. You basically earn a rebate on the fee on the transactions that occur through your smart contract or through your application, right? So it's similar to like the Twitter monetization program or the YouTube monetization program, and I think it's a win-win for developers, right? Because if they build popular applications, they earn fees from it, the network earns fees because there's more transactions generated, and it creates more user growth, right? And we want to actually increase this 15% number to perhaps 20 or 25%, perhaps sometime next year. But we've been running this project for a few months now, and already we've been able to distribute more than 600,000 FTM, or a few $100,000 worth of FTM. And this is just the beginning of the gas monetization project. Another thing we've got working at the moment is called the Ecosystem Vault. So of all the transaction fees that are generated on the network, about 70% of them go to validators, and the other 30% go elsewhere, right? So for the Fantom Ecosystem Vault, 10% of the transactions fees go to this vault, and basically the community votes to determine which projects do they want to fund with these collection of transaction fees. And right now, there's about 750,000 in there. We might change it so that it's a foundation that decides, just to make it a lot faster. But that's the situation at the moment. And the other thing I wanted to talk about are KuCoin grants as well. So we've been working with KuCoin for more over a year now, and we've had several KuCoin grants rounds. The most recent one was relatively small, about 125,000 FTM, but we want to increase that to the next round of 750,000 FTM. So actually, there's another round happening right now where we're just finalizing the projects that have participated in KuCoin, and basically KuCoin is a way of allowing the community or the people who are supporting particular applications to vote for those particular applications to receive funding via the KuCoin grants program. So we've already more than tripled the 175,000 FTM to 750,000 FTM, and we want to increase the number over time as well. And finally, we're also sponsoring a lot of Fantom hackathons this year, and we did last year as well. So in our latest hackathon, we had over $50,000 in prizes from the foundation, and we also had a lot of prizes as well from AWS. So free storage, free computation, that sort of thing. And AWS, or Amazon Web Services, have been a really great partner of ours. So I like to thank them a lot for helping us participate in the Fantom hackathons, as well as the judges, for example, through Covalent and others as well. And another final thing I wanted to mention is some of the popular applications that are on Fantom. So a lot of people have said, what are those popular applications that are on Fantom that you speak of, not just in DeFi but also elsewhere. Well, interestingly enough, in just the past few weeks, a popular RPG game called Escal Kingdoms has launched on Fantom, and it is already within the top 10 of blockchain games. It's actually in number 10 now, number one trending amongst blockchain projects, and there's tens of thousands of players on the network as well. And I think, as we continue to improve the technology of Fantom and grow the ecosystem, we can get a lot more games like this deployed on Fantom. So finally, please go to our website, follow me on Twitter, follow the Fantom Foundation on Twitter, and thank you very much for your time.